The ninth movie in the Saw franchise is produced by and starring Chris Rock. Let's talk about Spiral. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new film Spiral from the Book of Saw. This is not technically a sequel to the Saw franchise. In fact, one of the other producers, not Chris Rock, but one of the other producers said that this is sort of more of a spin-off and there could be several other Spiral movies, but then still they could have a Saw 9 and Saw 10, etc. So who's to say, really? But anyway, before we get into this film, welcome to Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my channel. We just hit 750 subscribers over the weekend, so very, very happy if you are one of them. But if you're not, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below and even maybe that little bell that will give you the notifications for my new videos. We're in sort of a new locale today. We're going to do a lot of videos now in my new and improved sort of movie collection here because I can now shoot videos on my iPhone. Last time we were down here in the basement, I was still doing my handheld video camera, which didn't have the best quality. So we can look forward to some of these in the future. But since it is a wider screen, you can see a lot more of my collection now, and there's still several shelves down the wall there. But anyway, hopefully you can enjoy that as you watch here. But let's talk about this movie. So I am not a huge horror dude to begin with. I like a lot of the more mainstream horror stuff, but the gore stuff, the torture stuff, I never got into. I've only seen two of the previous Saw movies. I saw Jigsaw in 2017. I thought that was okay. I gave that a C. I saw the original Saw film on its 10th anniversary, so most of the other ones had already come out, but I decided, all right, well, I've never seen these things. It's in the theaters for the 10th anniversary. I'll go see it. And I liked it as much as a person can like something while they have to sort of look at the screen like this most of the time. And so, all right, but I like Chris Rock. Samuel L. Jackson plays his father in this, so I thought, you know what, I'm trying to support theaters. I'm trying to see all these new movies, so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna check out Spiral. So I think this is a really, really mixed bag, and I'm not positive who is going to actually enjoy this movie, because I think for the diehard Saw fans, it's not quite gory enough. For people like me who are very, very more, on the, okay, I don't really like these movies, they kind of creep me out sort of side, I think it's probably still too much, but at the same time, like, at least there's a dramatic storyline sort of between the gores. But then I think the people that love these movies are also not going to be real plussed by that, because it turns out to be sort of more of an episode of CSI or something like that, where it's like, or Law and Order, where there's a lot of like police drama stuff in between the things that people come to these movies for. I think at the end of the day, there's only really 4, maybe 5, tortures in the whole movie. That's not what you come to these movies for, right? So for me personally, I probably enjoyed it more than I may some of the other ones, but for the diehards, I think they're going to be real disappointed. But Saw is an interesting franchise because none of the movies have above a 50% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. So that means all of the movies are, at the very best, mixed, and at worst, much, much lower. Leonard Maltin famously, he reviews everything, but he has famously not reviewed these films, or like Hostile films or something like that. I mean, he may have other people in his staff go and see them, but he does not personally ever see them because he doesn't see much merit in it. So, all right, but obviously it's a beloved franchise, so there's got to be something to it, right? So, the basic story is that Chris Rock plays this police detective, Ezekiel Banks. And I was thinking Max because Max Minghella from The Handmaid's Tale is his co-star. He's his new assistant, his new rookie, basically. He plays Detective William Schenk. And then Banks' father played by Samuel L. Jackson. He is, a career police detective. He's retired now, but for a long time he was, really in the thick of things. And years and years ago, as the plot tells us, Chris Rock's character snitch on one of his fellow cops, which is an interesting sort of line to take with today's sort of stance with cops, especially with black people and cops and stuff like that. So there's some of that stuff, but of course this was filmed before COVID. It was originally scheduled for release May of last year, so a lot of that stuff wasn't quite in play as much as it was since say George Floyd and a lot of the protests of last year. So maybe it's not quite as political meaning as as it was filmed, but I think there are still some thoughts here that pretty much any cop that's white in this movie is not great. So we could start there, I guess. But basically he was sort of blacklisted from the cop community. His buddies all saw him as a snitch, and his coworkers sort of hated him, and some of them purposely wouldn't help him on a distress call and stuff like that. So he has this history with that, but he's always towing that line of what's right and justice. And so he is the straight and narrow cop. And then now we've got this copycat killer, because of course the Jigsaw killer, if this is in fact a running in the same line as that film, this is sort of, okay, copycat killer's out there, we gotta track him down because the original Saw killer's gone, whatever. And so, okay, fine. But it's only cops that are being targeted and cops that are being tortured and killed. So that adds a little layer to his perspective on the matter. So, all right. I definitely did have to sort of a couple of times in this movie sort of be like, okay, like, oh, like, let me just sort of kind of see a little bit of what's going on, but maybe just let my ears listen for me and kind of tell me when it's over. But really only the first sequence, which is the first scene of the whole movie, it sets up everything, is really, really gory. Everything else is sort of like, okay, it's definitely unpleasant, definitely wouldn't want to be in that situation, but it's not as clever, I think, as some of the other ones that I have seen myself, and I've only seen two of the other movies. But I've heard of some other ones from some of the other movies, and yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like this is toned down a little bit. And again, I'm not quite sure why, because I feel like that would make the Saw fan hate it. Not hate it, but just be like, well, that was a disappointment. And then people like me might go see it because they like Chris Rock, but I don't know. I think there's probably other film choices if you don't like these kind of movies. And let's talk about Chris Rock then. I think his dramatic acting is solid. I'm always a Chris Rock fan, back from his SNL days and stand-up and Everybody Hates Chris and all of that. I don't think his movie career's, been that great, but he'd probably be the first to say that as well. But I think he is fine here in the dramatic moments. I think he plays those well. My biggest problem with him in this film is there's several scenes where he's just basically doing stand-up routines. The opening scene we see with him, he's complaining, joking with his compadres about Forrest Gump and, Jenny giving him AIDS, and, oh, Tom Hanks always gets AIDS, and, this and that and the other thing, and, oh, there wasn't a Gump too, because he died of AIDS, and all this. It's like, it just seems like stuff from not only a good stand-up routine either, like a stale 15, 20 years ago stand-up routine, but there's a couple scenes in there where I'm just like, all right, is this a comedy movie? Like, what are we actually doing here? So I think it's definitely got a bit of an identity crisis in that respect. So overall, I didn't hate this movie. It's currently standing at 38% on Rotten. And yeah, I can see why a movie like this would be mixed. I'm not sure how the hardcore Saw fans are going to like it. I think they'll probably like it enough because it is something new, and we haven't had a lot of these types of movies in the last few years. It certainly went out of favor. So maybe for that reason they'll be like, okay, well, we'll tolerate even a bad Saw movie. But for somebody like me, it's like, all right, I don't mind the dramatic stuff, but also there's just not much more to it than plot wise than a typical Saw movie. Also, the ending is terrible, and I'm not going to give anything away, but it just ends. It's so abrupt and bizarre, and clearly it's setting things up for a Spiral 2 down the line, but there's no epilogue or anything at all. It's just something happens, boom, end movie, and it goes to credits. So I didn't really like that part either. So this for me definitely a mixed bag. The other horror movies I reviewed last week, I gave two Fs and a C minus. It's more in that C minus range for sure, but I will give it a slight benefit of the doubt because it did keep it to a tight 93 minutes. Chris Rock was very good in the dramatic moments, and it wasn't overly gory. Again, I'm not sure how that will go over with the fan base, but for me, that was probably better. So I leave Saw, or Spiral, I should say, Spiral from the book of Saw. I leave it with a C. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.